Today we're starting the Goal 7, the Progressive Era. Woo! This was the time in the late 1800s and early 1900s that inspired radical suggestions and support for the despised and underprivileged. With the dark years of the Civil War behind us, Americans were ready to move forward. Goal 7 is about the Progressive Era, which lasted from about 1890 until about 1920. And it's covered in Chapter 13 of your Orange Book. In this presentation, we'll be talking about discrimination after Reconstruction, and information about it is in Chapter 13, Sections 2 and 3 of your Orange Book. We'll be talking about Goal 7, Objective 2, analyze how different groups of Americans made economic and political gains in the Progressive Era. And Objective 3, evaluate the effects of racial segregation on different regions and segments of U.S. society. Our essential question is, what steps did minorities take to combat social problems and discrimination? In 1877, sometime after the Civil War, federal troops were withdrawn from the South. As soon as this happened, violence and hostilities erupted from Southern whites against African Americans living in the South. Black codes, which were rules for African Americans, were actually written into law. These were known as Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws were used to segregate the races and were primarily used in the South. Examples of things that were segregated in the South were schools, buses, churches, businesses, sidewalks, water fountains, drinking machines, and waiting rooms. You may wonder where the name Jim Crow laws came from. It comes from a form of entertainment known as minstrel shows. Minstrelies were a type of entertainment that embodied racial hatred. Minstrel shows were the first form of musical theater that were 100% American born and bred. They began right here in the United States. In 1828, Jim Crow was born. He began his strange career as a minstrel caricature of a black man created by a white man, Thomas Daddy Rice, who amused white audiences with his antics. By the 1880s, Jim Crow had become synonymous with a complex system of racial laws and customs in the South that enabled white social, legal, and political domination of blacks. Blacks were segregated, deprived of their right to vote, and subjected to verbal abuse, discrimination, and violence without redress in the courts or support from the white community. And this is from an article called The Rise and Fall of Jim Crow. In the next presentation, we'll talk a little bit more in detail about discrimination against African Americans, as well as discrimination against other minorities.